Hi, I'm Liz with Liz's Crafts, and today I will be bringing you 4 Dollar Tree burlap DIYs. So we're going to start with DIY number 1. Now for this one here, I have the Wheel Wreath frame from the Dollar Tree. I have the rope from the Dollar Tree. And I have the striped burlap from the Dollar Tree. So all Dollar Tree items. Now this is the thinner of the 2 ropes from the Dollar Tree that you can get in the floral section. And I'm just going to cut these the length of the spokes in the wheel. And I'm just going to use my hot glue to do this with. So I'm just putting the hot glue on top of the metal and then laying my rope on top of it and holding it down for a little bit until it sets up. I'm just trying to make it even with the spoke in the wheel. So we're going to go on to the next one. And then we'll just do the same thing all the way around the wheel. And it is important to have your wheel on top of your burlap as you're gluing your rope onto it. And I'll show you what that is in a few minutes. Have any of you done this with the wheel wreath before? If you have, let me know in the comments, and how did it turn out? Now you only want to do 1 spoke at a time, because if you try to do more, your hot glue is going to dry up before you get your rope onto it. So I did use, I want to say, 1 whole thing of the smaller rope. And now I'm going to go to the larger rope. So you'll need 1 of the smaller and 1 of the larger. Same thing, I'm just going to glue this down all the way around the wheel. And I do put glue on top of the rope that's already there, so that this thicker rope goes on top of it. And I'm just doing a section at a time. You don't want to do too much. Your glue will dry up before you can get your rope down. I was so happy when the Dollar Tree had the burlap. I got one of each of everything that they had, but they still didn't have it all. They didn't have the honeycomb or the bumblebees, or I don't know, there was a couple others they didn't have. I was disappointed, but I was happy that I got what I did. I think I got like 7 different ones. So if your Dollar Tree doesn't have it, just keep checking and eventually they'll probably get it. My Dollar Tree seems to get things later than other people's Dollar Tree. So once you get around to where you started, you just cut that end off and make sure you put glue on the very end of it so that it'll stick to the other end of the rope. Just going to use my little makeup tool there to press it down. And then we're going to do the center ring. So I'm just going to put this thicker cord around the center there to cover up the ends of the previous rope. So I'm just going to put a circle of glue on and then lay my rope on top of it, making sure that I put glue on the ends of the rope so they'll stick together. Now you probably don't have to do this part here because I will be putting flowers in the center, but I always like to be a little extra with my craft sometimes. But it does make a nice little section there for you to put your flowers in because it's kind of raised up now on the outside and kind of down on the inside. So it does help a little bit with the flowers. Now I'm just going to trim up my burlap, and because I glued my rope down onto my wreath while it was laying on my burlap, it is now glued to my burlap. So we're hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. I mean, I wouldn't throw stones at birds, but you know, it's just an old saying. So I just trimmed up the edges there. And I'm going to flip it over and see if there's anything that hasn't been glued down. And there's a little spot there, so I'm going to add a little bit of glue to that. Oop, don't want to burn myself. Probably too late, probably already did. I'm always burning myself and getting blisters. So I'm just going around checking to see if I need to glue anything else, and it looks pretty good. So there we have our wheel with the burlap and the rope on it. So it's looking pretty good, but we need to decorate it now. So I got these groups of flowers from the Dollar Tree. The same time I got the burlap, I was so happy. So it has like 3 different flowers on it, and then some little berries or whatever it is. So I'm just going to cut these 2 batches apart. And we're going to use a couple flowers, 1 from each, I think. Or maybe I just used the 1 from 2 of them from this group here. And then I used the berries on both of them. So I thought these were a good deal for $1.25. So I'm just looking here to see which ones I'm going to use. I'm going to cut the stem down a little more so that it sits more flat in the middle there. And I'm going to add some hot glue to it. trying to decide, do I want the blue one there, the dark blue? I mean, it would have been nice, but I liked this light green one a little bit better. Just trying to figure out where I want it. I'm just going to cut the stem a little bit shorter, and then I'll glue it on. So there I have my 2 flowers. Now I'm going to work with the little berry groupings. So there was a berry grouping on each bunch of flowers. So I'm going to use both of them. This one is like a dark purple berries. So just trim the end off, put some glue on it, and we're going to put those in between the flowers. And then the next grouping of berries are little white ones. I'm just moving the leaves up, and then I'll cut the stem off and glue those on. And so my leaves stayed down on this flower, and what I'm going to do is just put some glue on it and glue it back to the leaves. I'm going to do the same thing to the other one because I don't want it to fall off. And now I have my rope here, and I'm just going to use this figure 8. So I went to Google and I Googled rope knots, and then I made this one. So if you Google it, I'll show you how to make it. And now I'm just going to put a couple holes in my burlap here because I want to put my rope ends through it, because this is going to be our hanger. And I want to say this is probably the thinner rope. Yes, I think it's the thinner rope. Excuse me. So this hole wasn't quite big enough, so I made it a little bit bigger. Put my end through it. And now I'm going to glue down the top part of my knot. I thought this would just add a little bit of interest to my wreath. So I'm just holding it there until the glue sets up. And now I have to put the ends together so I can hang this. So what I got was this thin jute cord here. And I'm going to do it like you would when you're wrapping macrame. So you just make a loop, and then you wrap around the ends. Well, the middle, I guess you would say. The middle of the thinner cord that you put down, you just wrap it however many times you want. And then cut it off, and then you put that end down in the loop. And then you pull both of your ends, and that makes the loop go up inside where you wrapped it. And then you can cut off your ends. And I think that just makes for a really nice look there for a knot. Now I'm going to trim up the rope ends. And that's it for our hanger. Well, I'm going to add a little bit of glue just to make sure that it stays where it needs to stay. So put a little bit at the top of the wrap and a little bit at the bottom of the wrap. Squish it down with my makeup tool there. And there we have a hanger. But I didn't like the way the knot was kind of hanging there, so I'm going to add a little bit of glue to that. And hold it down until it sets up. So you can stop here if you want. Well, okay, I forgot. I did add some glue to the back of the burlap so it wouldn't fray out anymore. So where we cut those holes, I added glue. Forgot about that part. We don't want it to fall apart. And now I have this hello word, and this came from the Dollar Tree also. It is wood. It's pretty thick. It's a real nice piece. It was $1.25. And I'm just going to use my chalk paint here, and I am going to use a pouncer brush, a pouncer foam brush, whatever you want to call it, and just put a coat of that paint on the top. I'm not doing the sides or anything like that, just the very top. So it does say hello. Now you don't have to put the hello on here, but I was going to put this on my front door, and I thought that was a nice little addition. Now I thought my camera was going, but unfortunately it wasn't. But all I did was hot glue the hello on where it touched on the rope. So there it is hanging on my wall. And now we're going to go on to DIY number 2. So we're going to use the leftover piece of the burlap from the previous DIY, and I have this metal sign. I want to say I probably got it at Dollar General, but it could have been Dollar Tree. I'm not sure. But the hanger on it was a little bit too long, so I'm just tying another knot in it, and I'm going to cut off the end just to make it a little bit shorter. Now I'm going to cut my burlap so it is a little bit smaller than my metal piece there, because I do want to fray the ends. But I do want some of the metal to show through. Now this bottom part, the reason I'm cutting it is because it was actually a salvaged end, and with me wanting to fray it out, I had to cut that off. So I'm just deciding where I need to cut the upper part of it. And now I'm just going to fray the ends. So I'm just taking off some of the pieces there on each side, one strand at a time. You don't want to do too much at a time, so I just do one at a time until I get it as much as I want. Oh, and I did iron my burlap before I started that first DIY, because it is, they fold it and then they roll it. So it really does need to be ironed before you start crafting with it. Because if not, you're going to have like valleys and hills, and it's going to be harder to work with. So I suggest ironing your burlap before you use it. So I'm just hot gluing around the edges of the burlap, not putting any in the center. Using my little makeup tool there so I don't burn my fingers. And now I have another word from the Dollar Tree, and this one is hope. Again, this is a thicker one. I'm going to use the same chalk paint that I used on the other one, and the dauber, the sponge dauber. Doing it the same way, I'm only putting one coat of paint on it, and I'm only doing the top side. So there it is, completed. I'm sorry. There I am completing it. And now I'm going to dry it with my heat gun. And now I'm just going to decide where I want it placed on my sign. I like that, so I'm going to go ahead and hot glue it down. And I'm putting hot glue all over the back of it. And it fits perfectly on the burlap. And now I have some more of those flowers from the two little picks that we used in the previous DIY. So these are the little white flowers. So one bunch from each of the picks. And I'm just going to take my jute cord and I'm going to wrap it around there just like I did the hanger on the previous DIY. I'm going to make a loop and then I'm going to wrap around the stems, and then I'm going to put my cord, I'm going to cut it and then put it through the loop and then pull the two ends and then trim them off. And that just gives a nice little finish to our flowers. That way you don't really see the stems. Just going to trim up the jute. Just deciding which side of the flowers I want up, and then I'm going to put hot glue along that jute wrap that we just put on the stems. And then lay that down on the burlap, hold it down until it sets up. And that's it for this one. Isn't it cute? So there it is, hanging on my wall. I like it. And now on to the third DIY. So again, we're going to be using some more of the leftover burlap from the previous DIYs. And I have this little chalkboard stand from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to put the burlap in the center where the black chalkboard is. So I'm just trimming it up to where I need it. Now, if you want, you could do this to the back of it and leave the chalkboard and put another design on the chalkboard if you want. I didn't do that. Like I said, you could make it two-sided. So there I have it cut to where I need it to be. And then I made this design with my Cricut. It is one of the iron-on vinyls. And it's a shiny blue. Love the color. So I'm just taking the pieces off that I don't need. And this vinyl is not sticky, but the carrier sheet is sticky. So you want to make sure your design stays on the carrier sheet. And now I'm just weeding out in the design the pieces that don't belong there. And it says retired mode and then a little on button. And it has a palm tree and some little birds flying around. I'm going to take this over to my iron and I'm just going to iron it down, put some parchment paper on top of it. Now I want to paint my little chalkboard, the wood on it. So I'm using that same chalk paint that I used in the previous DIYs, because I want all my DIYs in this to go together. So like I said, you could put this image with the burlap on the back side of it and then use the front side as a chalkboard. I chose not to do that, but you can certainly do it. Make it a two-sided DIY. Two-sided sign. So I'm putting my paint anywhere where you have the wood. Just going over it a little bit. Okay, now that I've ironed my design on and it's cooled off, I'm going to pull off this carrier sheet very carefully, making sure that my design stays on the burlap. And if any of it looks like it's not down all the way, I can take it back over to my iron. And I just have a regular household iron. I put it on no steam and put it on the highest setting. And I move it back and forth over my design. Well, I put it on the whole design and I press it down and leave it down for about 30 seconds. There it is. So now what I'm going to do is take my hot glue and go around the edges, the inside edges of the board here. And then I'm going to put glue in the center also. So for the whole piece. And then I'm going to lay my burlap on top of it. So retirement mode is on. Are any of you retired Let me know in the comments. I've been retired since December 2019, and I love it. So there's our burlap sign with the design. And now we want to add some florals to it. So I got this little bunch at the Dollar Tree. I believe it is, well, just some little purple flowers with a lot of greenery on it. I thought they were cute. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue down at the bottom of it. Hold it down with my little makeup thingy there. And then because it kind of flopped over, I'm going to add a little bit more glue higher up on it so it'll stay on the sign and not flop down. Going to add a piece to the other side. Oop, burnt my finger. Need to stop that. Use your tool, girl. You wouldn't believe the blisters I get. I mean, that glue gets hot. I think I burn myself every time I craft with hot glue. So I originally thought I was going to put one on each side and then lay one down in the center, but then I changed my mind. I don't know why I left this in here so you could see me holding that down. But anyway, there's where I thought I would put that in the center, and then I changed my mind. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put two on either side. I think that looks good. And we'll make this one a little bit shorter. So when I put the glue on that bottom part there, I'm going to kind of fold it over underneath the previous flower so it looks a little bit shorter. Now we're going to get another piece and put it on the other side. And actually, when I put it on there, I meant to put the end of it going in the opposite direction. And I realized that a little bit later. And I'm like, that doesn't look like the other one. I like the other one better. So I'm going to remove this one and redo it. So I just pop that off. The glue is still kind of wet. And then put it in the opposite direction. That way that stem is up under the other flower and not just hanging there on the other side where everybody can see it. And I didn't have to put glue on the upper part of these two flowers. They kind of seemed to stay where they were. So I was happy with that, and there it is. It's cute, isn't it? I like it. And there it is. Retired mode is on with my little flowers. They're so cute. And now on to our last DIY number 4. So for this one here, I have one of the metal pencil holders from the Dollar Tree that I've had forever. And I'm just showing you where the seam is. And again, I'm using the same piece of burlap that I've been using all along. So it's $1.25, and all these DIYs, I use just that one piece of burlap. So I'm hot gluing down the seam of this metal piece and putting my burlap on. So I'm not putting the hot glue anywhere but the beginning and the end of the burlap. So I put my glue on the piece of burlap that's already laid down, and then I'm putting my the other end of the burlap on top of it. Want to make sure that I get it tight enough. And then you see there that it's crooked, like my lines don't line up. Well, I look at that and I'm like, no, no, no. That I don't like that. That's going to bother me. So I take it apart. The glue's still wet. And I add glue to the other side of the burlap, and then I'm going to lay it back down. Again, pulling it tight and making sure the lines line up straight. And trying not to burn myself. Okay, so to me that looks a whole lot better. And I don't want my burlap to fray, so any of the little pieces that are sticking up, I just cut those off. So I didn't cover up the lip of the can, and I'm going to put this ribbon up underneath it. And this is some ribbon that I had left over in other projects, and I had gotten it from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to match up the where the burlap met the seam. Get your words right, Liz. And put my ribbon down. And then ever so often I'm going to add some hot glue to the back of the ribbon. Just a little bit, not much. Here and there, here and there. So it's up under the rim, so that orange rim does show at the top. If you wanted to, you could have made your burlap a little bit longer to cover that up, but I'm okay with it showing. Then I'm just going to trim up my ribbon and finish gluing it down. And then I have those 2 flowers from our picks previously that we've been using all along. And I don't know if I'm going to use the dark blue or the light blue or both of them. So I need to decide which ones I want to use. So I'm going to go with the light blue. So I'm going to start taking it apart, because I don't think it's going to stick to my can if I have that metal piece there, the metal stem. So I'm just going to take it apart. So I took the metal stem off, and now I'm going to start gluing it back together. So that middle plastic piece actually has kind of an end to it. And so I'm putting it through the hole of the flower petals and putting some glue on the inside of the flower petals so it'll stay glued down. And then I'm just going to start doing that with all of my flower petals. And I'm making sure to kind of alternate my flower petals, you know, one up underneath the other, so that they're not all bunched up on one side. They're kind of in between, alternating. Does that make sense? I hope so. And now I'm going to put this little green piece back on, but really, you'll see later that we don't actually need it. And it was a little difficult to get on because that other plastic piece is kind of flimsy and it didn't want to go through the hole. So I had to work with it quite a bit. So really, if you're going to recreate this, just leave that piece off. You don't even need it. Of course, I don't realize that until later. You'll see. Finally got it on. Yay. But of course, you know by now that glue is already dried up. So I'm going to trim off that little piece that was sticking out, put some glue around it, and then I'm going to glue it onto my canister, my little pencil holder. So I'm just going to hold it until the glue sets up. Just trimming up the pieces of the burlap that are trying to fray off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these 3 leaves apart. And I'm going to put those up underneath my flower. So I'm just putting some glue on my burlap and then putting the leaves on it. And look, this is where, look at that, there's the green thing. See that? It wasn't even on the flower. I don't know how that happened, but so you don't need it. So I'm just gluing the last leaf on. And then that makes this DIY complete. But I do not use it for pens and pencils. I am going to use it for my screwdrivers. So I have a bunch of these screwdrivers that I had gotten from the Dollar Tree. There was a captain's ship wheel that I had used them on, and I had gotten a couple packs, several packs. So I have all these screwdrivers and nowhere to put them. So I thought this was the perfect place for them. There it is. Isn't it cute? And there it is sitting on my tray. I thought all these DIYs turned out great. Which one is your favorite? I think I'll have to say the wreath and the retired. I like both of those. So again, I'm Liz with Liz's Crafts, and if you like what you see here, please give me a thumbs up. And if you know others that might like my videos, please feel free to share them. And I want to thank everyone who watches my videos, and especially those who have subscribed to my channel. Thank you so much. See you in the next